Hey Marta, how you doing?
Good, Vic. What's going on?
Oh, not too much. I heard through a little birdie told me that we're into modern day marine season. I actually let me say it wasn't a bird because it's way too cold outside for a bird to actually, but maybe I got a tweet or something. I just get a disconnect. But yeah, we're in modern day marine season now, right?
We are in modern day marine season. And if I actually woke up last night, true story. I woke up last night thinking about my to-do list for modern day marine. So, it's just so your listeners know, I'm the Marine Corps Association's lead planner for modern day marine. And the to-do list in my brain is like, on constant. So I
Yeah,
woke up. So that's how I know. Birdies or no birdies, I know because I woke up in the middle of the night sort of dreading my
yeah.
to-do list for modern day. It's right around the corner and we are pumped.
Yeah, your brain is just one really long PowerPoint presentation. You're just thinking in slide decks at
It's
this point.
it's really it's yeah. So between now and showtime, expo time on April 28th this year, that's pretty much what I'm going to be thinking about. What I'm going to be thinking about. Well, and you're going to be there too. Scuttlebutt's going to be there.
There are. Yeah, no, this is it's so rad. I love the way that Emerald has set us up. The location is great. Obviously, being on the showroom floor for something, that what the Marine Corps is doing here, the Marine Corps Association, the Marine Corps League, everything that's coming together. There's an audible and an emotional buzz from just being on the floor. So it's so fun. And just being able to talk to the guests that we have and just snatch some people off the showroom floor, like, hey, you look interesting. Let's have a chin wag or whatever. So fun. Yeah.
Yeah, that's yeah. So to your Scuttlebutt listeners, swing by the Scuttlebutt podcast booth and maybe you'll be interviewed. Maybe Vic will snatch you up.
Yeah. If you make eye contact, there's a good chance you're getting on the microphone. So we're looking at April 28th through May 1st. Is that correct?
Through April
Oh,
30th. It's
30th.
a
Okay.
3-day, yep, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at the Walter E. Washington Convention Center. And we're going to be, this is our fifth year up in DC. So if you're an old crusty Marine, you might remember the muddy boot days down. You don't even actually even have to be that old to remember the old muddy boot days down in Quantico. But we moved up to the convention center 5 years ago and we haven't looked back. It's been fantastic. We're able to do so much more with that space that it's really remarkable. This year we have about seven additional conferences and symposia adjacent to modern day marine. So we have, like we have the log comms hosting an AI symposium and a hackathon. We have UAS, counter UAS symposium that's interacting with symposia. We have the Reserve Leadership Collective that is gathering reserve officers to talk about the future of the reserves. I mean, just really, it's really becoming what we envisioned it to be when the commandant moved it up there, which is a place for learning and thinking and future thought. It really truly is doing that. I'm so excited, so excited. 5 stages.
Yeah.
We've got
No,
yes,
it's
it's great.
the amount of Tetris skill that went into putting the showroom floor together is really impressive. And all of the events are so cool. Key leader engagements, like you said, all of the symposiums, the events, and there's a new term now for what we were doing.
Oh, Small Business Industry Day, and now it's
Yeah,
Marine Corps. Yeah, it's contracts industry day. You know what's really great about it is that we have something for everyone. If you're a young Marine officer or a young Marine just kind of getting into it and wondering where you want to go with your MOS, we probably have something on the floor for you to handle and explore,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
We have, or if you want to know how to handle your career, we've got Manpower and Reserve Affairs there. They're going to, they're exhibiting. If you're wondering about the future of the Marine Corps strategically, we've got briefs for that. I mean, we really are this nexus of information for Marines. And then, leaders, senior leaders and defense industry partners. I mean, that's where they go and they show off their wares and they say, hey, look, you wanted this widget with this little doodad. That's the extent of my
No, that's technical. I think that's right out of a lot of the,
Yeah,
industrial
out of the
comics.
manuals. Yeah. In fact, yes, the widget with the doodad. Um, I'm married to an active duty Marine, and he loves to go because uh, he- the briefs alone are great. Like you'll hear from EWS students, command and staff and Sierra County students. They will come and do their TED Talks on their research projects. It's great information. It's phenomenal all the way around. I'm so excited.
Yeah, me too.
Anxious, but excited.
And for all of those who are just as excited as us, we can start registering now, right?
Holy cow. Yes. Registration's open. And let me tell you, if you've ever been to Modern Day Marine and have registered before, we have an entirely new experience for you. It is so smooth and seamless. You're going to love it. So yeah, registration's open now. Get on there, um, and register. We'd love to see you.
And if you're active duty, it's free of charge, right?
Free of charge. Free to active duty and military spouses.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking. Price is right. Price is
The
right.
price is right. Free 99.
That's right. So, yeah, come on, Walter E. Washington Convention Center in D.C., April 28th through the 30th. And yeah, come say hi. I'll be there. So come by the booth and introduce
Thanks,
yourself.
Vic. Yeah, sounds great. See you then.
See you then.
Hey, Scuttlebutt listeners. Welcome to episode 227. This week, we welcome Peter Cook to the Scuttlebutt. Peter is a former Marine turned high school economics teacher and the author of the book Bootleg Heroes. Released last year, the fictional narrative of Bootleg Heroes is inspired and informed by his time serving as a Marine embassy security guard in Ecuador, Spain, and Haiti. Peter talks to us about his experiences in the Marine Corps, how it informs the way he teaches, and how it served as an impetus behind the book. He puts a strong emphasis on literacy, the power of literature, and his passion for education is infectious. Peter dedicates his life to making a difference, and it was great to share in some of that with him. This is episode 227.
Hey, Scuttlebutt listeners. Thank you for joining us and your continued support. I'm Vic. I'm here with Nancy.
Hey, Vic, how are you doing?
Well, we're both homebound today.
I know, it's weird, right?
Unauthorized in-office work today. So this will be coming out. We're recording well ahead of the release date on this episode, but for those tracking in the news, our office location is highly visible right now, and so
Yes.
our very wise and learned CEO and boss man thought it would be best if everyone worked remote for the next couple days.
Yeah, you gotta love the technology. I'd forgotten how to do remote work. I haven't really done it in a while, so this is a good refresher for me to be at home.
Yeah, well, and it's not that MCB Quantico isn't immune from VIP visits, but this one seems to be like next level. And I personally am really happy that we're not having to do this from in the office, because we may have had to bring sleeping bags and toothbrush. So
Just
I don't know if they
camp out
won't
there.
let us leave. Yeah.
Yeah, it's I'm with you on this one. So it'll be interesting to go back and listen. Maybe we'll be able to add some notes in when we record the intro to the show. What was the outcome of the big event? The big event.
But so anyway, how was your weekend though?
Weekend was good. Nothing super exciting. Just trying to get some things in order. We just finished up the November Leatherneck. You guys just finished up the Leatherneck, or excuse me, the Gazette. So
it's with the Leathernecks though, so that's fair.
We both just finished our November magazine, so now we get 10 minutes to sit back and take a breath.
Yeah, I used my 10 minutes unwisely, I think. Whatever. It was still good to have.
What about you?
Yeah,
How's your weekend? How's family?
It was good. Didn't get as much off of the honeydew list as I was hoping, but we took the dogs for a walk in the park, and that was fun, and then gave them their subsequent post-walk bath. So that's always a fun event in the house to have 3 soaking wet dogs and 2 soaking wet young men running around the house.
Oh my
Trying
goodness.
yeah.
Oh my goodness. Well, I'm looking forward to today's interview.
Yeah, me as well. And so we're really excited. We're to be welcoming Peter Daniel Cook to the show. Peter, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, a pleasure. I'm over the moon. Just delighted to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, no, this is really fun. So Peter is the author of the book Bootleg Heroes, and it's sort of crosses a lot of genres, one of them being sort of military comedy, which I want to dive into with you a little bit about. But
Okay.
you're a former Marine, served at 79 to 84, you said?
84, right? 79.
Yeah, which is so, I was born in 76, so we're like sort of definitely talking generational Marine Corps stuff here. So, and I really want to talk to you about what it was like to be in uniform at the time. But you've done some really great things and things that I am just so pleased to see going on. But you're a teacher.
Yes.
Economics, correct? You're an economics teacher?
Economics and government teacher. That's right. That's
But
right.
you focus a lot on literacy and on helping kids, young adult or young Americans as they're coming into their adulthood, sort of gain a love and a passion for reading and how fundamental literacy is, not just to education, but just essentially building a nation, and for us to be sort of walking that quintessential mile in each other's footsteps, right?
Well, it's all about the stories and language acquisition and love, just as you say, of literature. So it's exciting, and I think that the idea, the basic premise is to put the culture before the content. So that, like in the Marine Corps, when our first day of boot camp, they let us know where we were and what world we were in. And I do the same as an educator, a little softer than the Marine Corps, I guess.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah. But we do, start off. And one of the things that's true when you're building the culture, if you hit a home run on the first day, you have them for the semester, really. But if you bobble that, it's going to be a trial the entire time. And so I've gotten, years of experience helps us to get polished, and I think it's an effective program. But you begin by telling people that we're there for one reason, and that literacy puts bread on the table. And if they believe that reading, writing, speaking, and listening, even better than they do already, if they believe that might help them and perhaps help their families and maybe their community down the road, then you've got people leaning in pretty quickly. And then you just do assessments to figure out where they're at. And then there's all sorts of tricks of the trade, as it were, to get people to become efficient readers and eventually to fall in love with reading, because it's out there waiting for them.
And you teach high school, correct, in the Los Angeles area?
I do, Nancy. I teach in the MacArthur Park area, which is kind of in the hood, as it were. And it's a great school, and the kids are an underserved community, big hearts and big opportunities to take them places that they might not have gone to before, until they take the lead and take the rest of us places we haven't been to before. So it's a real reciprocal relationship, give and take. But we were talking about story a little bit before, and the idea that to be educated is to be able to tell the story is how we start to break things down, so we can understand what stories are in play, what stories have built us historically, and what stories are perhaps being manipulated if we don't have informed opinions. So it's a very important job I get to do, and I'm happy to get to do it.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, no, I can only imagine. We were also talking before we started recording that, I have a close cousin of mine who's a very passionate teacher in the Garden Grove, Orange County school districts there. He's a history and AP. He's also a tennis coach, but he's just unbelievably invested in the lives of the young people that he deals with, and it's really been a joy to see him come in on his own in such a actually critical place for that sort of passion to be. I unfortunately grew up, especially in the sort of young public school world of sort of, sort of the vast majority seemed apathetic towards our development.
Yeah.
And not to say that there weren't. Yeah, I had a handful of teachers that were very passionate and very engaged, but they stand out. And it's a shame that I could pick one or two that totally stand out, because I would like to think, in 18 years of going through public school, that I would have more than, you know, half a dozen or so people that really stand out as far as helping develop and really give a shit about, the development of American youth. But just talking to you very briefly, it seems like you're definitely in that genre. So I thank you for what you do.
Well, I appreciate you, Vic. I tell you, I think that one thing I've learned, and I was in the Marine Corps a bit before you were, as it turns out, right?
Yeah.
And since those days, from 79 to 84, when I got out of the Marine Corps, and I've worked in business, and I've worked in a lot of organizations, civilian organizations, and the only organization where the expectation was to exceed what you were being asked to do consistently was in the Marine Corps. So I've come to learn that not all places have 100% mental participation. And since the kids I serve are in a capitalist society, love it or not, and they're in a society, if they're not literate, they're going to be left behind, in a society where 4 out of 5 people that are incarcerated are illiterate. We're not talking about stupid, we're talking about opportunity. And people don't have the opportunity to participate in the economy if they can't read and write. And so these are some truths. So in that, it's true that, in my experience, not all civilian organizations are Marine Corps organizations. I'll take it and run with it. And there's enough guys out there that'll take it and run with it that we can get the job done. But I think part of it goes back to what we learned in the Marine Corps, which is to form those teams outside of your own unit and see are there other ways to expand the mission. And when you and Nancy interviewed Major Powers, how's that for a name? Major Powers. That's a tough guy. Major Powers, he was talking about leadership and going to Brown University and then pulling from them what he could and then putting into them what they don't have. And I think that's what makes me so optimistic, is you don't necessarily need everybody. As sympathetic as I am that some folks are apathetic, I try to look beyond it and say, okay, let them, God bless them. Let me see what we can do with this guy over here, or tap that resource over there, And so I'm sorry in a sense that you didn't have that one or two guys, or maybe only had those one or two guys, but thank goodness you had those one or two guys. I'm a big defender of teachers. I love teachers, and in my experience, they're the most generous people you're going to meet. They really are. And I work with teachers who are one's better than the next. It's really a great organization. So don't be discouraged. There's a lot.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and before.
Go ahead, Nancy.
I was just going to say, before we get into the interview, can you tell us, what was your path to the Yellow Footprints? What brought you to the Marine Corps? Oh,
gosh. Well, I went into the guidance counselor's office, and no surprise, the guidance counselor office. And when I was waiting to talk to him, they had this array of book covers, and one was looking at them, just kind of spinning my wheels waiting. And then there was one that said the Marines are looking for a few good men. And I picked it up, and they were doing exciting things.
Classic.
Oh, it's great. Yeah, it was amazing. So I rolled it up, and I asked, could I take it home? And they said, yeah, go ahead. And I don't even think I went to the appointment. I don't recall that at all. I do remember, though, going home and cutting the edges off it and making like a mini poster right beside my bed and telling my older brother, I said, Mike, I'm going to do this. This is it. And that was it. That was 9th grade. And all I did was, my dad wouldn't let me drop out of high school. I was a little bit of a street kid, I guess, to a degree. My dad was a wonderful guy, strict guy, not mean, but he was from Boston. And he said, Vita, you got to graduate for your mother. So you got to stay in high school until you graduate. And so I I stayed in for my mother, and then
Wise man.
yeah, he was a good guy. He was a really good guy. So
And were you in the Boston area? Is that where this was all happening?
yeah, in
Okay.
Worcester, Mass.
Worcester.
Yeah, yeah. I forget. You're an East Coaster. I don't remember exactly where, Vic. Where?
No, I'm a San Diego guy.
Oh, you're the
so,
San Diego. Oh, right. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Hey.
Because when I look at it on a map, it looks like Worcester. So.
Oh, right. How about you, Nancy? Where are you? Are you from New England or where, Nancy?
Me, I was born in northern Wisconsin.
It's just Cheesehead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Classic
Right.
cheesehead right here.
Yeah. So anyway, that got me to go into the Marines, and I remember asking, like everybody else on the Yellow Footprints, what have I done? But yeah.
I'm sure that's never happened before.
Yeah.
No, it's great. I loved it. In fact, you know what I did is I pulled aside this. I'm not a big keeper of things, but I had this this thing to show you guys, even though this is just going to be on radio. That this was, once I get in the Marine Corps, I saw this at Cherry Point, and it was the Embassy Marine pamphlet. This has got to be 40 years old. But I saw that and I said, I want to do that. So you guys have good. We all have good propaganda in the Marine Corps.
That's right.
Oh yeah. So yeah,
It's all about the propaganda machine. Yeah, totally.
So you ended up then you were an MSG Marine. Is that right?
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about that? Where were you posted?
Well, we were the first class that didn't go to embassy school at 8 to 9. That's where it used to be. And then they opened up the new Marine Security Guard Battalion, MSG Battalion, and we were the first class there at Quantico.
Oh wow!
And, yeah, Colonel Cooper was the CO at the time, and so we broke in the barracks and we got to run through all of those. Have you seen the film? If you've seen the film Silence of the Lambs, where Jodie Foster is running with the FBI, those are all the trails around there.
That's right.
Right? And
the same for TBS, yeah. It's all right there next to the FBI
right
Academy, yeah.
It's great. And I always liken embassy duty training, and I don't know, I wasn't in law enforcement, but it seemed to me it was like SWAT team training. How do you defend a building and how do you rope up and, those kind of things. So it was very exciting. And you had to qualify with a pistol. And, of course, in boot camp, we qualified with the M16. And we had Uzis on post. And we had 870p shotguns. I remember that. But it was also SWAT team assigned. It was also a finishing school where, you learned which fork was the salad fork and how to get through a conversation without cursing, and all of the things. So it was really neat.
I know some people who might need to go back to that class.
Yeah.
A little remediation.
Yeah.
Well, not to steal your story right in the middle, but it's just now occurring to me. So you were an MSG Marine in 1983 when the bombing occurred in Beirut. Is that correct?
Yes, indeed.
And where were you posted at that time? And what kind of shock waves went through the whole MSG community?
Well, it was interesting because I was stationed first, Nancy, in Ecuador for a year and a half, and then Spain for a year and a half, and then Haiti for a year and a half. I extended an extra year and a half to do 3 posts as opposed to 2. So I was in Madrid when the Marine barracks was blown up, and one of the men who perished was Captain Haskell, who had been the son of my hockey coach. And he was a guy who, when he was on leave, he would come by and he had a wicked slap shot. So we really admired him, and he was a Marine. And so I remember when we learned Captain Haskell had died, I thought of his dad, of course. And then I remember there was a picture when the embassy was blown up, because this was all kind of in a jumble at a similar time, that one of the guys holding a shotgun covered in dust and kind of looking to the right was a guy named Louis Lopez. And I had taken Louis to the airport from Madrid when he was going to Beirut.
Man.
Hey, Louis, keep your head down, man. And he went off and served and survived. So, yeah. I remember those particular events. And I remember when Corporal Crowley was killed in Islamabad, and some of the guys in Madrid were, had known him. And so So we knew these guys, some of them up close and personally. But again, that coexisted with the fact that where I was stationed, we had riots and we had demonstrations, and some were anti-American demonstrations, but they were quelled pretty quickly by the local police. And then in Madrid, there was a ETA, I forget what it meant, but it was a Basque separatist group deemed a terrorist group by the Spaniards who obviously the north of Spain, they wanted to separate from being under the Spanish rule, and they blew up a whole bunch of things in front of the embassy, but not the embassy itself, and we bore witness to that with no injuries. So there's a lot of that stuff that looks even tame by comparison today. So I'm not sure what the training's like now, but I thought the Marine Security Guard Battalion is a wonderful organization to be attached to. Really appreciated that opportunity.
Yeah, the MSG, and rightfully so. They're sort of the outward face of the Marine Corps internationally. For many, especially from the Department of State and our international partners, like those are the only Marines that they'll ever deal with, and so it's really important. Not only that they look the role, but that they're extremely proficient in their jobs, and then they all are. My last duty was overseas, and everything from like our mailbox to where we would get stuff delivered was coming through the consulate, and so I used to work with those guys a lot, and we fell under chief of mission too, so it was really great dealing with them, and they're all super nice and extremely proficient in their jobs.
All the MSGs you're talking about?
Yeah, the
Where
security
was this
guards.
again? What
This was in Dubai.
Oh yeah.
We also dealt with the guys down at Abu Dhabi. They're all kind of part of the same debt. But yeah, they were
Pretty neat
great.
guys, those guys.
Oh yeah, awesome, really awesome.
Did they bring you over for TGIFs and all that at the Marine?
No, I
House?
didn't do any. They invited us a bunch of times, but I wasn't actually co-located. Yeah, so I didn't really get to do much of the Marine House stuff. But yeah, they were great. They always invited us though. I never got to participate.
Well, the Bootleg Heroes takes place at the American Embassy in Quito in the Quito, and it goes on from there. But it was really quite remarkable to go from Cherry Point, North Carolina, living on a base, and and Marine Corps bases are clean and they're squared away, and the food is incredibly good. There's nothing.
Yeah.
But it's still not embassy duties. When you arrive,
Right.
believe that you're going to get to live like this. So,
Yeah.
Well, and since this episode, we're recording in late September, but this episode you all will be listeners, you're hearing us in sometime in the month of November. Peter, what's the Marine Corps birthday like when you're overseas at an embassy?
Oh gosh, I haven't thought about that in a while. That's a great question, Nancy. I'll tell you a story. I was in Quito, my first post, and they give the piece of cake to the youngest Marine,
Right.
and then he gives it to whoever he wants to. And so I don't. Gosh, was I 19 yet? I was 18 or 19. No kidding. I think I turned 19 in Quito a few months after I got there. That's true. So I turned 17 in boot camp. Anyway, pretty young, whatever it was.
Sure.
So we were in Ecuador, and they cut the cake, and for a short period of time, and I don't know, Vic, if you know or Nancy knows, but I don't know if they have WMs anymore on embassy duty.
Oh yeah,
they do
sure.
now.
Oh yeah. That's a female Marines.
And now they're just called Marines. They're not
Marines.
WMs anymore.
Oh, they don't call. Oh wow, yeah. Well, in the first, they had one class of female Marines, but in those days, we're talking 1980.
Sure.
And there was Judy Santoro and Lourdes Garcia. Wow, that's going back a ways, but I remember they were great. And one had served in Kenya and then came to Quito, and went to Kenya after. I can't remember, and I don't remember where Lourdes went. But they were wonderful, and I had a little kind of a crush on Lourdes, if truth be known. So when they cut the cake, I marched it over and presented it to Lourdes, and she was shocked and appalled. But she took the cake and took a bite, and then we out partied till dawn, as people do. So
Yeah.
Yeah, the one that they had in Dubai was ridiculous. It was at the Burj Khalifa, and I mean it's a place to like all of the everybody who's
Yeah,
anybody in that country is coming to the Marine Corps birthday.
yeah.
So yeah, it was a big deal. It was pretty awesome.
Well, outside the slice of cake for Lourdes, what was pretty weird, I think, or unique, maybe a one-off for Marines giving each other cake. The parties were off the hook. They were just as Vic says, people from all walks, and they would go forever. And there was great ceremony in it, and it was just lovely. And the one in Spain was great, and the one in Haiti was great. So they were terrific. Yeah, they were really something. Have you
That's
been?
cool.
You
That
guys
must
been to a lot of the Marine balls? You guys
Yeah,
been?
well, I retired in 2018. I haven't really, always looking to just say happy birthday or, cut whatever with whomever I have in the area that I'm still in touch with that's close by. But, for 20 years, most of mine actually after 9/11, a good portion of them were overseas. And oftentimes it was, in a patrol base somewhere surrounded by HESCO and, making sure that everybody got something for the birthday, even if you're on the patrol schedule. So yeah, it was for a long time. It was nice to have them in places. We did one in Vegas when I was with Third Tracks. It was pretty off the hook. Actually, a couple in Vegas.
Yeah, that'd
Um,
be a good place for it.
but a lot of times, even then, because so many units were deployed, you never really had like all hands on deck for these sorts of things because, a good 50% of the unit is either coming home or on their way out the door. So,
That's interesting, Vic, because to Nancy's point, that was the only night of the year where Marines were not in the embassy, and the State Department would stand watch, so
oh,
all
interesting.
could attend. I don't know if that's still done or isn't. I would kind of be surprised if it is,
I'm
but
not sure.
yeah,
I'm
that's
sure it probably station by station varies based on who's
definitely.
willing to,
Ooh, that's
But yeah,
something
that's
for
pretty
us to look
cool.
into.
Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah.
So then, Peter, what led you from the Marine Corps to teaching? How did that all come together?
Well, I'll tell you, I had finished the Marine Corps, and I went to university. A woman that I met in the Marine Corps, Pat Crane. She was married to USAID fellow, and they said, "Hey, you got to apply to college." And I said, "Oh, I don't really think I want to go to college." And they said, "No, you really need to do that." So I did, and because I had a very low GPA in high school, the American University accepted me, provisional acceptance. Vic, the
That's
alum.
right. Hey,
Yeah,
I'm all about.
oh,
Yeah, they're
about
very vet friendly, so that's
so
awesome.
great. So they accepted me on a provisional acceptance, Nancy, and because Pat recommended me, she said he's not a wise guy kid. He's a Marine. He's done some things since getting his 1.7 GPA in high school. So they gave me one semester to try to get it right, and I got to live at Pat's house. They gave me a room, and
Oh, wow.
can you imagine? It
How
was unbelievable.
nice. Yeah.
Was great. And so they kind of helped me with my homework and taught me about how to be an efficient reader and taught me, the value of reading. And I fell in love with reading. And so a real contribution from those guys. Larry Harrison, who is a renowned, he passed, but he became a renowned author. He was working on his first book at the time called Culture Matters. And then, no, it was, Culture Matters, I think was his first, but he wrote a bunch of books. And he was a diplomat, a great guy, and they said I could stay with them, and I did. And then after I got out of school, I'd become interested in theater, and I went to California, went to Hollywood to try to be an actor. And I started doing TV commercials, and they were neat, and I did some theater. But the commercials, Nancy, you would audition, and then you'd get a gig, and then it'd be a month, and then 2 months, and So I got this commercial, and they shot it on location in Malibu. And the production values are huge on commercials, right? So they
Yeah.
have trucks and all this, and all they had was a sofa and a guy laying on the sofa advertising his shirt for Mervyn's. But for some reason they shot the station. We shot the commercial. I still have the commercial. And my wife, when I showed it to her, she said, "That was you?" Because she had seen it. And there's a little.
Oh, that's funny.
Just ridiculous.
Love it.
So after the commercial was over, I went down to the beach. And I was sitting there and I thought, gosh, do I want to keep doing this? And right at that moment, these 3 dolphins cut through this emerald wave. And it was so beautiful. And I looked, and a woman was walking up to the beach, and I remember she had a skull and crossbones shirt on, and we just kind of acknowledged the beauty of those dolphins, shared the moment, and off she went, never saw her again, sat back down, and I thought, wow, Peter, you should try to pursue beauty because of those dolphins, and I thought, what's the most beautiful thing? And I thought, well, I think the prettiest thing in the world, the most interesting thing, the most compelling thing is the human face when it's concentrating, like fighting or when people are doing athletics or whatever. That look on the athlete's face or people's face when they're totally into a thing, or actors in a great scene. And I thought, well, where would you get that? And this all happened right on the beach. And I thought, well, I bet teachers see that all the time when people get involved in what they're doing. And then I thought, well, that has the other component, because if I had just seen those dolphin by myself, it might have come and went. But just having a shared moment, so I thought, wow, you get the faces and the shared, teamwork moment.
Right.
So that triggered it, and I applied, I think, within the week to a teaching program.
That's so profound. I mean, and I hate to put you on the spot, but did all that happen in that moment, or was that sort of did you have to let that sort of rub on your gums for a while, or did all of that just, was it an epiphany sort of thing?
It felt like that, and it certainly it is recorded in my memory that way. But when I was approaching the end of the day, I had already become a little bit tired of doing commercials, and I think I was already in the where's the meaning in your life at whatever age. So it cohered in that moment.
Yeah.
But I think there was a lot of questioning going on underneath and around it, Vic.
That's really beautiful, though, that all of the ways that, because I mean, for me, I would have, especially having grown up on the beach, I would have looked at it and like, I need my surfboard, and that probably would have been the extent of how much I would have reflected on that moment. But for you to really come up with all, to really have it be sort of the seedbed to what you're doing now, it's really great.
Well, it was the right time.
Yeah. Plus, I'm a cranky Yankee. I'm from New England. I didn't have those nice warm beaches, So
yeah.
I might have just got my surfboard. I don't know. Yeah. No, it was great. It worked out great, and I sort of never looked back. I was really happy to be a teacher.
And then you decided that you wanted to do that in California, or did you head back East Coast for a little bit?
No, stayed in California. I had the undergrad from American. Went and got a teaching credential, and right at Cal State Northridge.
Oh, nice.
Got a gig immediately, and kind of went from there. And I ended up some years later being one of the founding teachers at the current school I'm at, which was put together to try to make a school in an underserved community and make a difference with kids. And so I've been there for 20 years, and
it's amazing.
It's been great. Yeah. Well, thanks. I mean, I loved it. I did really love it. So
yeah.
I'm leaving out stuff, but it's a long life, so we got to leave some stuff out.
You talked a little bit about, creating more efficient readers, and some of that was in our pre-interview discussion. But I'm curious, how do you turn someone who says he or she isn't a reader? How do you turn that person into a reader? How do you show them the beauty of words on the page and the impact that can have becoming a reader?
Your question is keyed into it. You show them the beauty. That's exactly what's going on. And I'm getting chills from how you phrased it, because what happens is you're in a group of students, and right from Jump Street, you have to let them know, like we were saying, what world they're in. So you Marines can work a room. So you establish what the parameters are, and you have people on their feet immediately. You say, Nancy, please rise. I have a question for you, Nancy. And Nancy says, I don't know. And you say, well, Nancy, I believe you don't know, but that's probably a manifestation of tension because you're on your feet. If you don't know, what do you think? Well, I don't know, Mr. Nancy. It's your mind. What do you have? And so you don't allow Nancy to say, I ain't doing this, because if any behavior that you allow, you're condoning the behavior. So you get people from day one on their feet and recognize that there's reading, writing, speaking, and listening. Those are the 4 components. And every exercise that we do together has as many of those 4 as possible. So that when we ask you to come up front and read your first essay, and everybody reads from the podium, we have Vic in the back left corner, and we have Pete in the back right corner, and we have Nancy at the podium, and she reads, and she has instructions. We, the listeners, have instructions to give verbatim feedback that's positive. You got to pick something that Nancy said, that you liked and why you like it. So you start asking questions that don't allow for shrugs or I don't knows, or that's off the table. And then you start to ask people to, when they're reading something, one of the things you learn straight away when it's not their own material, if it's a book, you pause it and you say, what did you get from that? And you'll get responses from students, I didn't get anything, mister, I was saying the words. So we start as educators to recognize that reading the thing aloud doesn't mean comprehension is going on. So you break it down and say, now, that's perfect. You didn't get anything, nor did you need to. You articulated that perfectly. So now let's see if we can raise the next level where you say it and you get something out of it. Because after you say it, get something out of it, and then attach what you think of it, you're going to start to see you have a relationship to the book. So let's give it a try. So Nancy goes up and she reads something else. So now it's Vic's turn. So you're really operating on multi-levels all the time. And eventually people start to kick in. Then you also are selling literacy by saying, listen, I have all the books in the world are at my fingertips. There's used books here. They're given to me for a song. Give me just what you're looking for, and I'll find it for you if I can. And so I start bringing in books on the regular, and I can get them for pennies on the dollar out here. As you know, Vic, there's a ton of used bookstores. So I bring in and we present the books whenever we find them. And then we have kids report in on it. So you're kind of seducing people to fall in love with these things by letting them know that they might not be getting much out of it at first, but giving themselves an opportunity and saying things like, if I gave you a canvas and I gave you brushes and paints, you'd have to give yourself time to learn how to paint a masterpiece. You got to be good to yourself so you can give yourself time. I know you can read, but let's find a way that you can get something out of the reading. So it's a whole host of those kind of exercises that'll get you there. Yeah.
Yeah. One of the things that really stuck with me in that video that you shared was this idea that once you enjoy reading, you're never going to be bored.
Yeah.
And especially.
Oh yeah, love that.
Yeah, when we talk, and you mentioned, sort of one of the things that, in the Marine Corps, you have all varying levels of interests, varying levels of reading comprehension, various levels of reading engagement, all these things. But when you're deployed, you will see the amount of people reading. It just skyrockets in compared to when we're in garrison, because you have nothing but time, and then you're just passing around the same books. And then kind of along the lines of what you're saying, Peter, is that you have like, hey, dude, you got to check this book out. And then they'll give them sort of their own sort of, Amazon review of it. Like, oh, man, it does this and that. It's really great, man. You got to check it out. And you'll just see that, like, the amount of engagement with reading. And I wish it were more infectious, that it would stay when we go into garrison. But always when you're deployed, you just see, like, the books are just flying around the CP. As Marines are reading it, sharing it, engaging with it. And you could see that, like, if nothing else, it's killing the boredom, but they're really loving it. Like, even when they're out on an OP or they're, out on a convoy, you just see books in all of the tactical vehicles and everybody's packs. Cause if I got 20 minutes, I'm waiting on a flight to come in or a bird to come in to pick me up or whatever, we're sitting around, I crack open a book.
I love that. I love that story. That's a great story. That's exactly it. You build that culture, or you have it part time. But for us, it's entirely intentional because that's what we're literally there for. So we don't necessarily have to be back, and lose at Garrison. But what we try to do, Vic, is to, when they're not in the classroom, can we get them to do that when they're back at their house, and
Yeah.
and we get whatever percentage we get. But yeah, but I like too, Vic, when you're talking about the relationship it builds and the Amazon review, and brother, you got to check this out, And I finished The Bell Jar this morning, Sylvia Plath's book, which I'd never read.
Really?
Yeah, I'd never read it. I'd never read
Oh,
it.
wow.
And I somehow I'd missed that. I read it. I finished it this morning, but I read it because a student said on Friday, Mister, I just read this book. So as soon as they read them, I read them, so I get it. It's the whole passing around of that experience. And I think what happens in a classroom situation is because you're selling that on the daily, and because it's clear you believe in it, and then it's clear that you start to get people who believe in it too, it really does happen over time. And I think that if we can dispense with you should read at this level and just say what level you're at is where wonderful. Let's go with that. And you can really, you have to instill pride all the time. You have to let us be proud of what we're doing right where we're at.
Yeah.
My kid was reading undergrade level, Charlie, and I found out he was 5 or 6 years ago. I can't remember. And, I'm a strict dad. I don't hit my kids, don't curse my kids, but I'm super strict. And when I found out that Charlie was undergrade level, we got the first volume of Harry Potter. And I said, you're going to read
Dude, we
it
just finished the whole Harry Potter series. My kids just ate it up.
Yeah.
And I have to admit, I was very skeptical. It is fantastic. I can't say enough about her writing style. I mean, it was so good. And so, yeah, we're in the middle we're coming on a Harry Potter hangover right now here in the room.
Yeah. Well, us too. We finished volume 6, and what we did was we had 2 copies at the same time, and Charlie would read a paragraph aloud, and I would read a paragraph aloud. And at first he would, and also he never correct the words. You have to chunk the word and break it down and get there. And he would try everything good to get out of it. And I'd say, okay, well, let's see how you do after 10 push-ups. Oh, okay, how about 20? And then he'd try weeping, and I'd say, oh, is that helping your reading? You're weeping? Is that helping? Okay, because you're going to have to read through those tears. Begin, But X years later, he's on grade level, and we're suffering the Harry Potter hangover, and it's a good one to have.
Yeah, for sure.
So good.
Those things are great. Yeah.
And so did you always have a passion for stories and for literature? Is this something that developed?
Developed,
Yeah.
It really did. I was not an avid reader when I was a kid. I was some of the people I met in the military turned me on to it. And then when I got to college, there was a guy named David Peck, and he was an interesting fellow. He was 5 years younger than I because I was in the service first. But there's something unique about this young guy. And we became best friends. And I was the best man at his wedding. He was the best man at my wedding. And we're still in touch X years later. But he had read everything. And I remember he had the second year he moved off the dorm, and he had an attic apartment right off you would know the place. I'm forgetting the name. But, the hills off of American University and those neat little old townhouses.
Yeah, the embassy district back there.
Yeah, right there. Exactly that. And he had he rented a room in an attic. And so we would go over there and drink coffee. And in the first months, he said, there's something called the canon. You have to read this. You have to read that, the literary canon. And I was kind of slouching around, I'll be honest. And he tore my head off. He said, God damn it. You want me to recommend things? I get them for you, or I show you how to do it, and then you don't show up and do it. He said, it takes effort. And I said, okay. You ain't going to get away with this, So I started to read, and then I did really fall in love with it. So those elements are true too. You got to be a hard case with some people some of the time to get through it. And but I'm sure glad he stuck with me. Yeah.
I know in a lot of your work, one of your big things you emphasize is fatherhood. I don't want to, turn the area you're in, into some sort of caricature of itself or anything like that. But, one of the big things, and, I grew up from a split home. So I know it happens at all, in all status levels throughout our, it's just sort of a blight on American culture in a lot of ways. But I mean, broken homes, single family homes. Um, so one of the things you have put a strong emphasis on is fatherhood, and something that I want to say that probably a lot of kids in your area are really driven towards because they don't have it maybe in their home. Where do you see some of the linkages between your the passion you put into teaching, and then clearly the passion and the dedication you have within your own home? Where does some of those overlap as far as fatherhood and teaching and mentorship and leadership? Like, where all those things sort of coalesce?
You guys are very good at this because I'm getting a lump in my throat. These are so important, these questions. I appreciate them. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, this is true. And every single exchange I have with a student, the lodestar is to ask myself, as a consistent refrain, how would you want your sons to be treated? If this was your son, how would you want to be treated by the teacher? And because I can keep that in the front of my mind, and because I am crazy about my two boys, they're men now. I'm nuts about them. I had an infinite basket of patience to try to get it right. So I could say, well, does that work? Does it not? Whatever. So at one point, Vic, Nancy, we had a wonderful culture and it dipped down, and a great culture at the school. It was ups and downs. And then post-COVID, there was a lot of problems of people were trying to assimilate. We had a group of guys, and they came to be known as the Brotherhood All-Stars. And there was something about those boys. They were really tough, and they didn't want to be told what to do. And it had to do with a father thing, it seemed to me. So just on an instinct, I went to the admin and said, look, let me get the biggest, I don't want to call them knuckleheads because they weren't, but the guys that were getting in trouble all the time, and they were always getting in trouble and rebelling. I want to interview each one of them, and I want to put together an advisory. So I went to the first guy and tried to sell it to him, and he said, okay, I'm in. And then he was like the Pied Piper. He went from room to room and called guys out, and I interviewed them. Did they want to be in there? They didn't have to be. And so then day one, they came in, and I had this pull-up bar, dip bar station that was in the package. And you know this from being an officer. There's that old thing in the NCO school where they would say you have a flag to raise and you have cement, or at least it's back 40 years ago, and you have this much sand, and these are the ranks, and you're the senior guy at the moment, and how do you do it? So we all did our equations. Oh, you put a gallon of this, that's that. Wrong. And then they said, if you're a second lieutenant, you turn to the gunny and you say, Gunny, raise that flagpole.
Yeah.
So I brought out this thing and I put a toolbox. I said, fellas, I can't make you do anything, but I can ask you, will you build this? And they tore it up, built it up, and had it built by the end of the day. And now they had something to do every day. Then we learned chess together, and people fall in love with chess. And what's happening is they're falling in love with thinking. And maybe they've been only reactionary. In every class I ever teach, including those guys, including econ or history of cinema, we open with learning chess. The first week always. And so now these guys are intellectually engaged and they built something, and we're only in the first week. And so, and then from there you go. But here's the interesting thing. You remember in the Marine Corps, should we get really salty on this one?
Yeah, they salted up, man.
All right. There's a lead, follow, or get the fuck out of the way. Did they still say that in the Marines? Lead, follow?
Something along those lines for sure.
In 1979, that was it. So lead, follow, or get the heck out of the way. And when I was in with that group of kids, not every day was a breeze. Not every day was even close to fun. It was tough. But a lot of time I found myself, I had to get out of the way so that they could be tribal and just hang out and be boys. And at the end of the year, they wrote letters, what they appreciated. And it was about, you let us be who we were, that. And so you're a little bit like this, kind of groping around. But these guys were great. And by the end of the year, the brother would line up and I'd drop my bags and I would hug each of them on the way out. And say, love you, brother, love you, brother, love you. And I don't know how many men were saying, love you, brother,
Yeah.
But the three that remain are, because the other guys have graduated, and there's three, and it was 1 year only. So they had to go off to other advisories and lead. And those guys still wait for the hugs. And so it's all tied together to me, And in and around that, the big subtext of Bootleg Heroes or anything else I touch is, you got to build it on something. And love is a good thing, but we have to legislate. We can't just assume people are going to be nice, so we got to follow the Constitution. We have to see what are the parameters of the nation and be a nation of laws. So for me, what could be more important than teaching literacy and the Constitution? It's a great job. To do.
Love that. That's awesome.
And you also participate with the Boy Scouts as well, right? Like, do you have the Eagle Scout thing is very important to you also, right?
Yeah, it really was. One of my students introduced me to that, and he said, why don't you join? And so I took Max over. He was probably a freshman or 8th grade, I think. And let's go to one meeting, Mick, see what you think. And he went over and he met Mr. Graves, who's a friend to this day, and he was a scoutmaster, and Max loved it. And then his little brother, Charlie, was 5 at the time, and he said, well, I want to do it. So I went to Alan Michael Graves. I said, what about Cub Scouts? And he said, okay, we'll do a Cub Scout troop too. You run it. I said, okay. So, there's fair.
That's how this podcast got started.
Oh, yeah, I heard that. Yeah, we were talking in San Diego, and here you are still, right?
Yeah.
That sounds like the Marine Corps. Right?
Yeah, it's like, that's a great idea. Why don't you do it?
Yep. So
be careful what you wish for.
Yeah.
It took 9 years, 3 months, and 28 days to get those boys to Eagle Scouts. But it was a team. Just like the Marines. And my dad said to me at boot camp, he came down to Paris Island. And I remember he's a big smoker. He's smoking his Chesterfield. And he walked over after they broke formation, and we were Marines. And I kind of walked over to him, marched over to him, and he said, I forget what the intro line was, but he said, well, anyway, you're a man now. And I thought, oh, you're right. And it was that click. And my boys got to Eagle. I felt like they're competent young men now. They got there. So those things matter, I think. I think they do.
That's awesome.
And Nancy, you have a young boys in Eagle Scout. Not so young anymore, right?
Not so young. Yeah, my youngest is an Eagle Scout. Yeah, I have only good things to say about the program, and was very proud to participate in it, and proud of him when he made Eagle. It was a big deal.
Yeah, big deal. And Eagle Scout moms are a big deal because it's a family, right? It's a family thing. You gotta.
There was a little nagging going on, but yeah.
Encouragement. We'll call it encouragement.
But it was, the nagging was about the annoying stuff like the paperwork and the admin stuff. The actual leadership part, I only sat back and watched, and I tried to stay away when my son was doing Boy Scout activities because it's different for a mom than a dad. And my personal opinion is that a mom can change the dynamic very drastically. And so I stayed out of his way, but I did go, when he was working on his Eagle Scout project. And I remember I delivered lunch to everybody who was working on the project. They were building a trail. It was actually a bog bridge at, a park, a national park. And I brought them lunch, set it all up, and I had never said anything to my son. I don't know where he picked this up, but I watched as he made sure every person there, to include the adults who were on the work party, everybody else ate before he did. And
That's just it.
I mean, I never said anything to him, but I just remember that feeling like, well, whatever, whatever else happens with him getting this stupid paperwork done
Right.
eventually,
Endless.
that was kind of a little bit of a light bulb moment for me that he had, progressed to another level in his life.
Mm, yeah. That's a marvelous story. I love that story. The leaders eat last, the real
Yeah.
guy. That's wonderful. Well, congratulations. Even,
And to you as well.
oh yeah, thank you. It's interesting. It's interesting how all this stuff comes together or doesn't or whatever, but it's beautiful.
What from your perspective, then, when we're talking about all these sort of, obviously very interesting stories, and I think we can all here slap the table on, the value of a narrative and value of story. But what are some of the challenges that you're seeing? Because, especially from a military standpoint, or even a professional military education standpoint, there's a lot of discussions about what role information has in the battle space. We see it has devastating impacts if you're not paying attention or you're not trying to control the narrative. So in many ways, you are fighting that battle every day. You're sort of in the trenches of the information war as, we see all of the siloing of what is truth and what isn't, all of these sort of centers of where people get their information from. There isn't, we talked about sort of breaking down the gatekeepers when it comes to publishing or when it comes to the stories that are in the public consciousness. But now the public consciousness is spread over many, many different silos and just seeping with distrust of institutions, of the people where the information is coming from, unless it's within your silo, within your tribe. You're dealing with it on a multi-level sort of battle space environment, because you're dealing with what it sounds like impoverished youth, neglected area. Places where education isn't necessarily held in very high regard, or at least seen as unattainable. You're dealing with many different sort of just whether they come from economic, cultural hurdles that you're having to deal with, but then you also have to deal with the social media. We see like Jonathan Haidt's book, Anxious Generation, that kids post-pandemic have never been lonelier, never been less hopeful. Anyways, really long way of asking the question, what is it that you're doing, or what are some of the challenges you're seeing in reinforcing these kids that narratives do matter, finding the truth in story is important, and then being able to tell your story is important, vice this really sort of nihilistic view that none of it matters, so who gives a fuck?
So how do we fight the good fight?
Yeah, how do you fight the good fight? What
That's so
motivates you to wake up in the morning and do this good work?
Well, it's the furthest thing from enervating. It's really energizing work. So it's you sort of to the manner born. It's a mission I'm happy to be on. So that helps a lot that you like what you're doing. But that aside, in the doing, if you looked over here, I have all these books laid out because teachers always have their props, right? One of the things to do is read what the other side has to say. And we talk about this all the time. This seems to help, Vic, is to say, look, ladies and gentlemen, at my age, in my experience, I don't know, but I will say that I think this is true. I think I'm telling you the truth when I say that people aren't stupid. They have different values, and these different values coexist, but I'm not convinced that people are stupid. In fact, I'm convinced of the opposite. I think people are really smart. And what they read and what they gets them to their decisions. So if we look at this guy, who I love, Robert Reich, and we talk about the common good, we're going to get his ideas about the Constitution. And he worked in the Clinton administration. I'll talk a little bit. And if we look at this guy, Yuval Levin, and we look at American Covenant, and he talks about the Constitution, and he worked in the Bush administration, what you're doing is saying, what's common between these two? And what isn't? Because at the end, these are incredibly similar articulations of the value of the Constitution. For example, Yeah, and these guys are actually politically, one would assume, one is on the left. And yet, at the end of the day, I'm reading them and I say, my God, that's totally legit. My gosh, that's totally legit. And for me, it's really important to not try to sell a political perspective. The only thing I'm trying to sell is an informed opinion. And I learned
That's
that.
amazing. I love that.
Oh, well, my uncle taught me that, Nancy. He was, get this, he was a commander on the USS Diadon. He was a submarine commander.
Oh.
And he knew about informed opinions. And he would, just like you said, Vic, when they were on the sub, he believed they were reading, But he said, and then he taught me those things. And it took me a while to learn how to do it. But I have across here, I'm going to actually reach for this one. I'm like, you know what? If politics is the art of influence, and I would argue that it is, there's things that people do politically to try to influence people. What are we going to do with that? So we're always looking at as much as we can. There's another guy like Ron Kovic. He wrote Born on the 4th of July.
Right.
He's an amazing guy. I had a chance to talk to him. I asked him, you know what I asked him? I said, Mr. Kovic, here he is. He's written Born on the 4th of July, Hurricane Street, and A Dangerous Country. Read all three. Well written. And as we know, Kovic was paralyzed from mid-chest. Yeah. And I said, Mr. Kovic, I'm a former Marine. I'm not a combat Marine. I hadn't sacrificed physically what you did, and I didn't have anything remotely resembling your experiences, except being at Cherry Point, as was Ron Kovic. And I said, but I got to ask you a question. Are you proud of being a Marine? And he said, and I have his response, the transcript, and he said he was absolutely proud. He did the best that he could to be a good Marine. And he said, I don't think I've ever actually put down the Marine Corps, is Ron's response. So I think that listening to the voices and listening to what people are protesting about and what they're supporting, even if it's outside of what you're protesting about and supporting, it just creates that community so that we can maybe harken back to a better feel-good or a discourse opportunity. So by talking to students about having informed opinions, but not mine, and reading disparate opinions, you get people to start to see that what they're reading influences them. And they like that they're reading and saying, yeah, I think somebody would do that. Or nobody would ever do that. That's crazy. Like when you watch a movie and you think, who's going to do that?
Right.
Whatever it is.
He's behind the door.
So I don't know if that's being clear or it isn't.
Yeah.
No, totally. But I do wonder though, because it's not even so much about what side has value or the value of the argument itself, but the fact that there's so many things that are pulling us away from even having the argument. And I guess,
okay,
I don't mean to demonize social media. I get that, like, it is a tool and it has its benefits, but I just, with everything that's been going on and the ways that we look, I don't know if social media is a net positive. And then when we look at, like I said, like Jonathan Haidt's book of The Anxious Generation, like its influences on the youth seems so detrimental.
Yeah.
And so all of those things you just said, which is great, and I really appreciate your feedback on that. But then how do we then apply it to kids who are being pulled constantly away from being immersed into an argument or even trying to hold value from the other side?
We give them a 90-minute break a day and say, ladies and sirs, there will be absolutely positively no phones in here.
Okay.
And there aren't. And
so you got to go cold turkey.
Well, I think what's true is we've addressed that at the school I'm at, and certainly I subscribed to this quite a while ago that I can't compete with phones because the whole world is there. So there's no phones. So you're absent of phones. And when we made it campus-wide, kids started to engage again at recess or lunch or not recess, but equivalent. So for those 90 minutes, students at first they are stupefied. How do I not keep doing this? But eventually they sober up, as it were, and come in. So the first thing we have to do is create spaces, counter spaces, because you have space to. Great, enjoy it. I have a phone now. I didn't have it until 6 months ago, but I have one now because they're efficient. I used to have a Thomas guide under my.
Yeah, we talk about the Thomas Guide all the time, man.
Yeah, right.
I went cross country with that when I was a second lieutenant, going from California to Quantico for TBS, and full on Thomas Guide.
Yeah, it's amazing. But we have to absent what the distraction is, and then give people how much time they need to invest in what's in front of them. Just like your guys who are no longer at Garrison, they're out in the field. There ain't nothing else to do. So what you've done is absented those distractions.
Yeah.
And then, but humans are curious and they want to find something compelling. And I don't know if this is true, but what do you guys think? Do you think students and young people are starting to get tired of their phones?
Hey, it's hard to say. I feel like there is a movement towards that, to sort of like cut back on or at least, like you said, sort of do digital fasting, or social media fasts or things. I'm too old. I'm too far out of it, and I don't do social media, so I'm not really sure where it's at. But this is something that interests me a lot, especially as we're talking about, this is the generation that's entering into the Marine Corps now.
Mm-hmm.
What is that like? What is it? And then someone who feels like, sees a lot of value in storytelling and having, being able to grasp onto that narrative where it doesn't seem like social media does much to enable story or narrative or really tell sort of genuine, authentic stories of people's lives. I'm just really fascinated on what is it we're going to do with all of these things that are constantly, trying, advertising that it's keeping us together, but really is pulling us apart, so I don't know.
I think we should get together, and it sounds like a joke, but I'm completely serious. I think we should, do a project literacy for the Marine Corps, and how you just said earlier, yeah, we'll do it. The Cub Scout leader or whatever, or the podcast.
Yeah.
And say, look, these are the realities. This is what we're in. How can we put forward the commandant's reading list message? Should we have a guy who reviews every book on the list after he's read it? Should we have base tours where people who are not Marines come in and say, I was a Marine. I would do that in a minute. Go base to base and say, let's talk about literacy. Because if you minus something without the attendant other thing that is conceivably richer, then you're just minusing something. But if you can teach the richness, and we can, it really works. We could teach it to those fresh crop of Marines. And it would be, can you imagine what a privilege that would be? To teach Marines why they have to know the Constitution inside and out. And while they're at it, why not read things like Mein Kampf, which isn't about the Constitution or whatever,
Right. Well, yeah, definitely. We have we had a guest on, Michael Jerome Plunkett, who is the executive director of Literature of War. Is that right?
Yep. Yeah.
And so they're doing something very similar to what you're talking about. So I'd like maybe we get you guys in touch.
I made a note.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, give me anything I can do to support your mission.
Yeah.
The great mission of the Marine Corps would be my honor, privilege, and excited to co-create, to take on. That's a sincere thing. Absolutely. Because the Marine Corps brand is strong, as your Sergeant Major said in the interview, or Major Powers. And I know it's given me a lot of leverage on the planet. And walking in and wearing a uniform every day, which I still do, and all the things that I learned in the Marine Corps about how to talk to people, about how to ask for things as opposed to demand them, and all that stuff is we could build from that. We could all build.
Well, I mean, your passion alone is enough to and the energy and how infectious your passion is for this. Is definitely something we want to capitalize on. So
yes, for sure.
Let's definitely stay in touch.
I'd be thrilled to work with you guys. Really, I mean it. I really, really would. Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, this will be the first conversation of many.
Yeah,
great.
Totally.
Super.
Well, Peter, man, this has been so great. I really apologize. We didn't really get to talk about your book.
Oh,
But please, for our listeners, go check out Bootleg Heroes. It's hilarious, really well done. But, more than anything, support Peter in all you're doing. And again, like, the fact, I just can't tell you how jealous I am that with all of the things that you're doing, you also published a book, which I have yet to figure out how to do. So you completed the novel and then got it on the shelves, man. So, I mean.
Oh, man. Well, when yours is done, I want a copy, brother. I got to
Yeah,
get a copy.
yeah.
Thank you, bro.
So,
Holy cow, this is great. It went by in 5 minutes. Yeah.
yeah.
I really love what you're doing. Love your articles, Nancy. Vic,
Oh, thank you.
Really appreciated getting to know you both a little bit, and I'm at your service.
That's
Awesome.
great. Good to hear it. Good to hear it. And thank you so much for your time today. And thanks for what you're doing with the students in your classroom out in LA.
Yeah, seriously.
They're good guys. It's my pleasure. Semper Fi.
Yeah, Semper Fi. Thanks, Peter.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you so much.
Scuttlebutt is a production of the Marine Corps Association. You have heard the voices or contributions from Major Vic Rubel, USMC retired, Nancy Litchman, William Truding, and our guest. Ty Frazier is the editor, sound engineer, and technical producer. The Marine Corps Association is not an agency of the U.S. government. The opinions expressed in this episode are the personal views of the participants and do not reflect the official position of the United States Marine Corps, the Department of Defense, or the Marine Corps Association.